Let's discuss the home menu and its different options. We've already discussed the pattern view. If I'm in one of these different screens, in the setup screen and I want to go back to my pattern box, I go back to pattern view. Think of this like your computer, like Windows, but all of your windows are always open 100% of the time. You can't close windows. All you can do is you can go to different windows, or you can select different options. So if I'm on my pattern view but I need to go into my setup window, I need to go to the home and I need to select the setup option. If I'm in the setup window and I say, you know what, I want to go back to my pattern view, again, I don't close the setup window, I just change windows. And I come up to my home and I go back over to pattern view. That takes me back over to my pattern view window. Add pattern, we've already discussed that. That's where I can add the different patterns to my pattern box. File manager. File manager, this is how I get patterns onto my remote, or this is how I remove patterns from my remote to edit them in some editing software. You can see right here, I'm selected on my source as being internal. But let's say I wanted to select something from the USB and I wanted to copy it over to the system. So what I would do is I would take my USB drive and I would plug it into my remote. Most USBs have a light on them. You want to make sure that you give the light ample time to register that it's been plugged into the remote and that the remote registers the USB is loaded into the system. 5-10 seconds is usually pretty good. Now I can switch from internal to USB. And notice my little circle appears under the USB. For the file name, I need to select something to take off this USB drive and put it onto my remote. So I first need to select that option. And I do that by touching the blue square that's over here on the right-hand side. So for my file name, I select the blue square, and it brings up all the different options that are on my USB drive. Now what's going to happen is, depending on what you have on your USB, depends on how long it takes to load that USB drive. You're going to have to edit out of that. I accidentally hit previous. I can scroll down through the list. Again, these are all the different things that I have on the USB. I have a folder in here that's called test patterns. I have two options. I can copy over that entire folder by just selecting it once. Yes, it will open, showing me everything that's inside there, but this box right up here is what we're concerned about. Media USB test pattern. That is what's going to be copied over to the system. Now if I select one of these different options, that'll be added to the end of the list. But let's say, no, I wanted to copy the entire folder over to the system. Depending on how many patterns you have inside, depending on how big that folder is, depends on how long it's going to take to copy over. But let's say I want to actually do just one pattern. So right here, I select the blue AA QCC pattern and I touch OK. Right here, just like that gray rectangle we had at the top of our screen, it's showing me exactly what I'm copying over. Media USB being the USB drive. I'm in the test pattern folder and I select the specific file called AAQC. Now it's asking me, where do you want to copy to? If I'm coming from the USB, naturally I'm only going to copy to the internal. But it does give me the option that if I wanted to go from internal over to my USB, I can copy them back from my remote onto the USB drive. Right here it's asking me, where do you want to copy it to on your remote? Again, I touch the blue circle that's over here to the right of my copy to line, and it brings up all the different folder options that are in my add pattern screen. Notice animals, floor, general, geometric, exactly the same as the add pattern screen. This one I actually don't want to put inside of a folder. I just want to put right here at the base of my patterns list. So I'll just touch OK. Without touching any other folders, I'll just touch OK. And notice right here, I'm going to copy to the end of my patterns list. I'm confirming that that is the pattern I want. I'm confirming that that's where I want to copy to, and I touch the copy button. It goes quickly and it says file copied. Now let's go over to our add pattern list. And right here at the base, I'm going to have the AAA.QCC file that I just copied over. That's how you use the file manager. Now let's say, for example, if you have a USB that's not working properly, or you don't have your USB plugged in. When I go over here to select my USB option, see, it does this all the time. That's something we got to look at. It's supposed to give me an error right now saying your USB is not plugged in. So
Okay, we'll just
take a look at that one.
We won't talk about it.
Okay. Once we're done with our file manager, let's go back into our free motion. Our home down to free motion. Free motion is how I can record my movements that I've done on the quilt. Maybe I have a pantograph on the backhand side that I'd like to save into my system. Or maybe I have just a free motion, free flowing pattern that I'd like to save into the system. So what I do here, this screen that is showing me right here is my quilt area. If you've set your quilt area to be small, a small area, and you're outside your quilt area when you're doing the free motion, it will not show you the movements that you are making. So let's show right here. I'm going to hit the start button and I'm going to actually move the machine to show the movements. You can see I have a crosshair right here. Right here on the screen I have a crosshair that comes across. As I move, that crosshair will move. And you can see behind me it's drawing a tail. It's drawing a tail for that pattern, and I can actually record my movements. Once I'm finished, that that's the pattern I wanted to do, I'll hit the stop button. Yes, that is in fact the pattern that I wanted to record, so I can hit the save button. But if you say, you know what, no, that doesn't look how I want it to look, I can hit the start button and it'll delete everything I just did and it'll start again from scratch. But if that is the pattern you wanted to do, touch the save button. What it's going to do, just like your file manager, it's showing you exactly where it's going to save it. It's going to save it in your patterns at the bottom of your patterns list. And I can touch up here and I can actually type in a name. I can type in test. And I can hit the OK button. What it's going to do, it's going to take that test and it's going to put it in my add pattern list. Right there, the test. And there's that one line that I drew in my free motion option. Let's go through the setup options. There's several different things that determine how well your system runs, how you update your system in the setup. The very first screen that comes up is the update screen. This is how you update your system for new updates or how you make sure that your system is running properly. Let's say a new update did come out. What you're going to do is you're going to first place it onto the USB drive according to the instructions that came with the update. Once that update is on your USB drive properly, you're going to come over and you're going to plug the USB drive into the system. Just like the file manager, you want to give it 5, maybe 10 seconds to register that that USB drive has been plugged in. This gives me several different options. I can update the system, I can update the program, or I can update the robot. If we're doing a new update, I'm naturally going to update system. Update system is the quickest and the cleanest way to update system. Update program and update robot, those options are for if for some reason I needed to go back a version or go back to an older version of software, I would use the update program and update robot options because that's how I go back to older versions of software. When I touch the update system button, it's going to automatically go out to my USB drive and find that file that I copied over already. And it says, I found the file, and this is where it's saved at. Are you sure that you want to update with this file, or do you want to proceed with the update? When I touch the OK button, it's going to automatically update my remote and automatically update my black motor box that's mounted to the front of my carriage automatically. When it finishes, it'll tell me update complete, and I'll automatically go back, restart my system, and ask me to move to the back left of my quilt area. Since this system is already updated, I'm just going to hit the cancel button. These 3 buttons over here on the right, system info. This is telling me what my current software versions are. You can see right here my software version, which is my touchscreen remote. My software version is 3.04. This is showing me my serial number of my software version. This is just for our records to know what the serial number is of your system. This tells me what my operating system is. I'm on the Chester Shirley operating system. MC. MC refers to your motor controller, or in other words, your black motor box. This is telling me what my motor box firmware is, or my motor box software, on the motor box itself. Currently it's at the 3.03 software. You need to be sure that if you're at the new 3.0 software, that your software version says 3.0 something, and your MC firmware says 3.0 something. They cannot be different. You cannot have a 2.0 software version, so a 2.09, and a 3.0 MC firmware. They must both be 3.0 something and 3.0 something for both your software and MC firmware. Your SC firmware, this is the small stitcher box that's mounted to the backhand side of your machine that your handlebars plug into. This is just telling me what the software version is of my stitch controller, SC, stitch controller on the backhand side. Motor